All right, let's dive in. Today, we're wading into some really interesting territory. The surprising connection between artificial intelligence and, well, our inner lives. Our wellness, our spirituality. Can these two things even coexist? We're about to find out why this might just be one of the most important conversations we could be having right now.
So let's just cut right to the chase. The big question we're tackling is simple, but it is deep. Can a machine, something built from code and data, actually support your soul? I know it's a pretty wild idea, but stick with me, because the answer is way more interesting than you might think.
Now, our guide through this whole conversation is Reverend Kada Pierre. And you should know, she did not start out as a believer. As a big sci-fi fan, her first reaction was, and I'm quoting her here, serious resistance. Honestly, that makes her the perfect person to walk us through this, especially if you're feeling a little skeptical yourself.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with Reverend Kada's really unique perspective, then follow her own journey from being a total skeptic to an active participant. After that, we'll break down her key idea, which she calls sacred intelligence, see how it can be a real-world tool for wellness. And then, and this is the important part, we'll look at our own role in all of this.
Okay, first up, AI meets the human spirit. To really get this, we first have to get to know Reverend Kada. See, her take on technology isn't just some abstract theory. It comes from a really deep personal healing journey that started way before AI was a term everyone was throwing around.
Her background is this fascinating mix. She's a trauma survivor, so she's been on this lifelong path of healing. She grew up with one foot in organized religion and the other in this world of deep family intuition, which pushed her to explore all kinds of spiritual and holistic practices. And to top it all off, she's a huge science fiction nerd. It's that blend, right? The deep human experience and a love for what the future could be that makes her view on all this so essential.
So you have to wonder, how does someone with her background end up working with AI? Well, that brings us to our second section, a skeptic's journey. This is really the heart of her story, how she went from wanting to, in her words, squash AI to save humanity, to actually helping shape it.
You can kind of map out her journey in 3 big steps. It started with that really intense fear and resistance we talked about. But then she had this big realization. AI wasn't going anywhere. So she had a choice, complain about it or learn about it. She chose to learn. And that led her to join an immersive reality program. And that's where everything flipped. Her fear started to look a lot more like an opportunity.
She uses this incredible metaphor to describe that change in her thinking. She says it's the difference between being a passenger standing on the platform, just kind of passively watching the train go by, and deciding to get on board and become the conductor, to actually help steer where this whole thing is headed.
So, once you decide to be the conductor, you need a new framework, right? A new way of thinking. This is what led her to develop this concept she calls sacred intelligence. The idea here isn't just about using AI, it's about how we build it, consciously and ethically, from the very beginning.
So what is sacred intelligence? Well, the way she defines it, it's about taking our most human qualities, our gut feelings, our moral compass, our ability to grow and evolve, and intentionally weaving them into the technical DNA of artificial intelligence. It's where our humanity and the machine are supposed to meet.
And to make this idea really hit home, she uses this perfect analogy. We have to treat this process like we're raising a child. Think about it, because whatever we put in, our values, our biases, our compassion, our fears, that is exactly what we are going to get out. The kind of parent we are will determine what this child becomes.
And this quote just drives that point home so powerfully. If we don't pay attention, if we just unconsciously dump all of our own junk, our greed, our biases, our lack of compassion, into these new systems, we're basically creating a machine that just amplifies the very worst parts of ourselves, the very things we're afraid of. Okay, so that's the big idea. But how does this actually play out in the real world? This brings us to Section 4, a tool for wellness. This is where we look at how this kind of thinking could help solve some very real, very urgent problems we're facing right now.
Reverend Kada has another fantastic analogy to describe our big systems, things like healthcare, justice, education. She says they're like adults trying to squeeze themselves into their old toddler clothes. It's just not working anymore. They're broken because we've outgrown them, but we just keep trying to slap on another Band-Aid instead of designing something new that actually fits us now.
This is where an AI built with sacred intelligence could make a huge difference. Just think about it. Our current systems are totally overburdened and overtaxed, right? That means long waiting lists. Well, AI could offer immediate access, maybe as a supplementary tool between therapy sessions.
Instead of generic, one-size-fits-all solutions, it could provide a curated, individualized experience. And it could be trained to be culturally and linguistically aware in ways that our current systems often fail to be.
Now, this all sounds incredibly promising, but the whole thing really hangs on one massive question. How do we do it right? And that's our final section, our turn to teach. This is all about the ethical responsibility that we, all of us, have in this creation process. So, what do we need to build AI that helps instead of harms? Well, there are a few essential ingredients. It all has to start with development teams who are actually self-aware, who understand their own biases. The AI has to be trained on data that's diverse and equitable. Its moral compass can't be some add-on. It has to be baked into its core programming. And crucially, we need real regulations and real collaboration, bringing the tech folks, the policymakers, and yes, even spiritual leaders all to the same table.
Now, it is so easy to think of all this as some sci-fi future scenario, but here's the reality check. We are all already doing this. Every single day, from the apps on our phones to the software we use for work, we are constantly interacting with AI systems. We're influencing them. This isn't on its way, it's already here.
And that really brings us to the final, most important point of this whole explainer. If we accept this idea that we are collectively raising this new intelligence and that it learns from every single interaction it has with us, then that means we are all its teachers. So the question I want to leave you with is this: AI is learning from you every day. What are you choosing to teach it?